Ashton Kutcher is famous for his comedic roles in films and TV shows. His playful and funny persona has dominated his career, but he's dedicated his time to serious causes like the sexual exploitation of children in real life. While the joyful actor uses his platform to raise awareness about such causes, you may not know the hardships he has faced in his life. So let's learn more about some of these tragedies. First, his parents went through a divorce when he was a teenager. Witnessing your parents go through a divorce can be traumatic at any age, but especially during the early years. When the That 70s Show star was only 13 years old, his parents, Larry and Diane Kutcher, ended their marriage. After the divorce, he and his siblings lived with their mother and eventually relocated to Homestead, Iowa. Although Ashton has not discussed his parents' divorce in great detail in public, he did mention it briefly during his acceptance speech for the Robert D. Ray Pillar of Character Award at Drake University in his home state in 2017. He referred to his own journey as a parent and tearfully expressed that when he had kids, he first wanted to apologize to his parents because he never realized how much he was loved. What's more, his respect and admiration for them grew when he went through a divorce with Demi Moore, as it broadened his understanding of the experience that they might have had. I had the great fortune of getting a divorce because I felt the impact of it, and I felt how much loss is in there and how much love is in there, and that it's not neat or clean or messy, he said. On top of that, he added that he finally understood his parents' divorce in a new way. Next up, his brother also went through a difficult diagnosis. While dealing with the aftermath of his parents' divorce, Kutcher also had to manage stress amid his twin brother's ongoing health complications. Michael Kelson had a difficult birth and was visibly smaller than his brother. His lungs were underdeveloped, making it difficult for him to breathe on his own, and he weighed only 4 pounds at the time, while Ashton was healthy at 11 pounds. During his toddler years, Michael had developmental delays that impaired his motor skills, speech, and vision, due to which Diane Kutcher had him checked by a doctor. He was eventually diagnosed with cerebral palsy at 3 years old. At the age of 13, the divorce increased stress for Michael, and he ended up suffering from heart failure. In addition to the daunting diagnosis, the doctors gave him a life expectancy of 3 to 4 weeks. Fortunately, he was able to outlive that by getting a heart transplant. Since then, he's become an advocate for differently abled people and has raised awareness for these conditions alongside organizations like the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. Due to his difficulties, Ashton was very protective of his brother growing up and would often defend him in front of his bullies or miss out on parties if he wasn't invited. In an interview, Michael shared that his brother would tell him that he wished he could take away his illness and make it his own, following up with the reckless things he did as a young adult. The no-strings-attached star's teenage years were overshadowed by heavy stress and the average struggle of a high school student. He'd do the kind of fun any teenager does, but once in his senior year, his antics, as the Seattle Times later put it, went too far. The unfortunate incident happened one night when 18-year-old Kutcher and his cousin snuck into school to play a prank. During their trip to the school, they unknowingly activated a silent alarm, which immediately alerted the police. Even though the act was seemingly harmless, breaking in wasn't a joke and was treated seriously. Kutcher was convicted of third-degree burglary and sentenced to 180 hours of community service, with 3 years probation. Before the event, his reputation was that of a pretty good student and an overall good kid, which didn't get into trouble. But after the incident, everything changed for him. His girlfriend at the time broke up with him, he lost his college scholarships, and he was kicked out of the National Honor Society, along with the choir and play. Although this one-time crime cost him heavily during his teenage years, the star eventually graduated from the University of Iowa with a degree in biochemical engineering, after which he pursued modeling in New York. That said, even though he had to deal with the harsh consequences of that one act, he also learned a lot from it and claimed that it straightened him out pretty quickly. What's more, his date was brutally murdered in 2001. Just as Kutcher's career was picking up during the early 2000s, he met fashion student Ashley Ellerin through mutual friends. According to E! News, he was going to take her to a Grammys after-party on February 21, 2001, which he'd confirmed with her on a phone call. When he arrived at her house 2 hours later, there was no response from Ellerin, and he knocked on the door for a while to no avail. During his testimony in court in 2019, the actor explained that he'd peeked through her window to see that the carpet was stained red, but he'd believed it to be wine from a party she'd had a week ago. The next morning, the victim's roommate, Jennifer DeSisto, found her body. She'd been stabbed 47 times. Also, when Kutcher came to find out about the tragedy, he contacted the authorities to explain why his fingerprints had been on the door, as he'd been worried about them misinterpreting it. Ellerin had been murdered by Michael Gargiulo, aka the Hollywood Ripper, who'd visited her under the guise of a repairman weeks earlier. That said, he was convicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Ellerin and Maria Bruno, and 1 count of attempted murder for stabbing Michelle Murphy after a lengthy trial in 2019. As a result, he was sentenced to death in 2021. In addition to that, his ex-girlfriend Brittany Murphy passed away tragically as well. During his younger years in Hollywood, Kutcher was associated with many women, including Monet Mazur and January Jones. At that time, he starred in the romantic comedy Just Married with Brittany Murphy and left everyone wondering about their relationship status. As expected, the pair started dating after shooting for the film ended in the fall of 2002, and according to the 44-year-old actor, they were just friends during filming, and their bond deepened as they began to hang out more after. The film's director, Sean Levy, watched their relationship unfold in person, and he noticed how well they clicked. Unfortunately, their relationship didn't last very long, and they parted ways by spring next year. Still, Murphy admitted that Kutcher was one of the kindest people she'd ever met. Both of them always talked about the other fondly. Fast forward 6 years after their brief romance, Murphy tragically passed away at 32 from pneumonia, anemia, and multiple prescription drug intoxication in December 2009. And after her death, Kutcher shared that he'd tried to accept the tragedy by focusing on the charming energy she had while alive to celebrate it rather than being depressed by the loss. Finally, his marriage with Demi Moore was unstable. The pair met in 2003 and started dating just a short while later. Then, towards the end of 2005, they married at their Beverly Hills house. The couple seemed happy and loving, but the reality of their relationship proved to be different. At the very start, the 15-year age gap became the source of media buzz, and it impacted their relationship. Moreover, a source told People back in 2010 that Kutcher had changed a lot since he'd gotten married to Moore. For the duration of their 6-year-long marriage, the Two and a Half Men star had been accused of cheating on multiple occasions, and up until 2011, he always denied it. Also in October of that year, then 22-year-old Sarah Leal reported that Kutcher had slept with her on his 6th wedding anniversary with Moore. He told her that he'd separated from his wife, due to which they'd hooked up. And in her 2019 memoir, Inside Out, Moore wrote of the incident where she mentioned that he'd admitted it immediately upon questioning. This wasn't his only extramarital affair, and he justified them by using their frequent threesomes as an excuse. Eventually, these conflicts proved to be too heavy of a burden on their marriage as they officially separated in 2011. The divorce was finalized 2 years after the split, as their finances and assets took time to split, and Moore wanted spousal support but didn't receive it in the end. And that's all for this video, guys. Did you know any of these tragic details? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.